Welcome, my fellow masters. We are more than a couple of weeks into 2024, and I'm sure many have been contemplating their servant summoning plans for the year. There are a number of interesting and highly anticipated new SSRs to try and tempt us out of our Saint Quartz. To help with summoning plans, I'll be covering what we can reasonably expect for savings of SQ and summon tickets from this point up to the new 2024 summer event, Arctic Summer World. Since I figure many a fellow master in the know will be targeting that particular event. Just a guess though. So effectively this will be a look at slightly more than the first half of the year. We will of course highlight the banners along the way that have brand new servants and see what kind of SQ and ticket counts one may have in those specific scenarios. Before we start, just a quick note that I will be following the schedule order of these events and campaigns as they occurred on the JP server back in 2022. However, I will have to make some guesses with how things play out around June and July. NA's anniversary celebration is at the beginning of July, and thus some adjustments have to be made compared to the JP schedule. Please keep in mind that I'm taking some liberties, plus making a few assumptions here, and ultimately, things may end up happening differently from what is discussed in this video. Now, let's take a look at what's ahead of us from now until August. This will probably be a lengthier video, so get comfy, grab a drink, maybe a snack or two, and let's get into it. Now, I may be behind by a couple of weeks or so, but for the purposes of this video, I will be starting the overall savings count from the 1st of January. That said, if you somehow avoided the temptation from the dark and light side of Koinskaya, and were of a mind to save up all the goodies from the 2024 New Year's campaign, then we're looking at 41 Saint Quartz and 16 summon tickets. Following the New Year's campaign, we have the Rhinus Case Files event rerun that is currently ongoing as of the time of this recording. Counting the rewards from the event's story and mission list, along with a new rank up quest for the event's welfare SR Assassin Grey, we should be able to come out with a combined 30 SQ and 3 tickets. At some point in the latter half of January, there should be a campaign to correspond to the Arc 1 improvements that occurred on JP. One such improvement was to free up access to the Prison Tower quests that can be found in the Da Vinci Rare Prism Exchange list, assuming one hasn't already unlocked it by spending 5 rare prisms. Those RPs do get refunded with this game update, so if you have yet to play through these Prison Tower quests from the RP shop, you can potentially gain up to 9 summon tickets by doing so at this point. The trial quests for Arjuna and Karna that may be listed among the RP shop items will also be freely accessible. Again, this is if you haven't already played through them. For my fellow masters that can access this combo Arjuna and Karna trial quests, then that's potentially another 2 summon tickets. Back in February of 2022, the Merry Christmas from the Underworld event was released as a main interlude, then added to the Rare Prism Exchange. A commemorative campaign is expected to make this main interlude freely accessible as well. So if you've not played through the main interlude, either during its initial release or through spending the rare prisms to access it, then there is a potential 6 quartz and 1 ticket that can be obtained. FGO NA's 2400 day anniversary can be expected to happen late January. JP had hit this milestone in late February, but relatively speaking, NA tends to be about a month ahead. So that means we can count on 10 SQ from that celebratory login bonus before the end of January. And we can't forget about the SQ and tickets from daily login streaks, clearing the weekly missions, and the monthly Mana Prism shop refresh. Counting from January 1st to January 31st, we should gain 29 quartz and 9 tickets. So if we combine everything together for January, that should tally up to 110 Saint Quartz and 28 summon tickets. Well, that only covers everything that I consider reasonable for all players, so we're not counting those potential SQ and tickets from things like the Prison Tower quests or Merry Christmas in the Underworld main interlude. But if we were to look at a scenario that factors in those conditionals, the total for January becomes 118 quartz and 40 tickets. At the beginning of February, we can expect to have the pre-release campaign for the annual Valentine's event. 3 quartz can be obtained from this campaign's login bonus. Now, JP had an accompanying live stream broadcast to reveal some details of the new Valentine's event, along with a social media campaign providing a reward of SQ, 6 specific to the SNS component, and then another 10 SQ bonus for the success of the stream. Based on how things were handled last year for Valentine's, I think it's reasonable to assume NA will get a similar SNS campaign to distribute the 6 SQ. Last year, it was called a social media reaction relay campaign with multiple parts. And the other 10 SQ will probably be provided through a special login bonus during the actual Valentine's event. This year's Valentine's event introduces us to a brand new SSR alter ego with a unique counterattack MP type. A recognizable character from the Fate Hollow Ataraxia series, among others, FGO welcomes Bazette Fraga McRimitz as a pseudo-servant. Now, if you were someone that wanted to roll for Bazette on day 1 of the Valentine's event, which we will assume to be February 9th, saving everything from January 1st, you would have 141 Saint Quartz and 34 summon tickets to try your luck. This includes the 10 SQ Valentine's event login bonus that I'm predicting, though this does not include anything from those Rare Prism shop quests. If I were to add up those quests from the Rare Prism shop, plus all interludes and rank ups, the new total would be 151 quartz and 46 tickets. If saving is your main priority, but are nonetheless interested in Bazette, then she will be back on Rate Up around the same time next year. Moving on, playing through the 2024 Valentine's event, a combined 21 quartz and 5 tickets can be obtained. For masters that have the limited SSR ruler Amor Karen, she will have a rank up quest available with this event, which means another potential 2 SQ. In past years, NA has celebrated Chinese New Year with a campaign, although in 2023 it was interestingly absent. I'm going to assume we have one this year on or around February 10th, which should bring us 10 quartz from a login bonus. Another special campaign we can expect is the President's Day campaign, which should happen in the proximity of February 19th this year. And this should provide another 10 SQ to add to our savings. Around the cusp of late February, we will probably get the pre-release campaign from the Chaldea Boys Collection event to help transition into the month of March. We can look forward to 3 SQ from an associated login bonus. Now, during this time back in 2022, JP had an associated live stream broadcast to discuss some details for the upcoming event, among some other things. Naturally, there was a social media campaign that gifted 6 SQ plus 10 more after the broadcast. Similar to what I outlined for Valentine's, I think NA will get 6 SQ from its own SNS campaign for this pre-release, while the remaining 10 SQ will be provided as an event login bonus when it happens in early March. An update that's likely to come around the same time as the CBC pre-release, based on the past JP schedule, is the free access to the Seraph Main Interlude from the Rare Prism Exchange. Unlike Merry Christmas from the Underworld, this Seraph will still be available in the RP shop even if you have played through it when it was initially released as a main interlude. It was mainly to provide masters the ability to repeatedly revisit the Kiara boss fight and bully her, to test out new servant tactics. So if you have cleared Solomon and this free access to the Seraph Main Interlude will be your first time playing through the quests, then it's possible to obtain 18 SQ and 3 tickets from the first clear rewards. Generally, around the end of February, the annual player survey comes out, and completing this survey will gain you 4 summon tickets. As for a count from the daily logins, weekly missions, and such, saving from January 1st to February 29th, as 2024 is a leap year, we get a combined 88 quartz and 18 tickets. Tallying up all of our savings from January and February, we get a combined 228 Saint Quartz and 46 tickets. And adding in the potential SQ and tickets from the Rare Prism Exchange quests and main interludes, then the total becomes 256 quartz and 61 tickets. Kicking things off for the final month of 2024's first quarter is the annual Chaldea Boys Collection campaign, this one referred to as the White Day Spectacle on JP, and from it there is a login bonus that will provide up to 7 summon tickets. And of course, there is an associated CBC event, this time called the 15 Bespectacled Intellectuals. I am anticipating an event login bonus of 10 SQ here as a counterpart to a JP livestream reward. So with that, maintenance and the event quests, we should net 22 quartz. Now, no new servants released for this event, but as you can probably surmise from who is pictured here, the extremely powerful limited SSR Berserker Arjuna Altar will be on raid up. In fact, another very good limited SSR, Merlin, will also be on raid up during this event. Yet I won't be doing a complete saving scenario for these two, even as good as they are. Fortunately, Arjuna Altar will be on raid up again later in the year in September, and as for Merlin, well, let's just say you may want to opt for a waifu arts version of him coming in the summer. About a week into March, we're likely to get the first campaign of the Road to Lost Belt 7 project. This first campaign features recollection quests from Lost Belt 1 Anastasia, and you can gain 3 summon tickets from clearing them, provided you have already finished Lost Belt 1. Another feature of this Road to 7 LB1 campaign is that interludes will be unlocked temporarily for unsummoned servants related to Lost Belt 1. In this particular case, even if you don't have the SSR caster Anastasia in your roster, you will still be able to access and clear her 2 interludes that have SQ rewards. So for those without Anastasia, you can gain 4 quartz from this. Though I'll consider this as conditional in my counts since her interludes are not new and masters that do have Anastasia will probably have cleared these quests already. Following the Chaldea Boys event is Battle in New York 2024, a tournament festival / lottery event. The SQ rewards from the main quest line added to the server maintenance Apologems should net you 13 quartz. Then if you are able to complete the super high difficulty exhibition tournament matches, you can gain up to 16 summon tickets. However, we should probably consider these tickets as conditional since masters with smaller rosters may have a really tough time with these matches. Around late March, I suspect we'll have a Chaldea broadcasting stream as a counterpart to the Anime Japan livestream that was held on JP, which revealed some info on April events. And as typical, there was a social media SQ reward campaign and a bonus gift announced at the end of the broadcast. So I'm just going to assume it will play out the same for NA, giving us 16 quartz. Then around the end of the month, presumably March 30th, we can expect the start of the Spring New Master Aid campaign. It will have some limited missions that, when completed, will reward 6 quartz and 2 tickets. The mission criteria are all quite easy, and I suspect most masters will have them completed that same day. Thus why I'm counting this in March, even though the campaign stretches well into April. The Lost Belt 2 campaign of the Road to 7 project will probably be released with that spring campaign as well. It will have limited missions and recollection quests, plus LB2 servant interludes that will be unlocked even if you don't have them in your roster. Of note is the Scotty interlude, which will be brand new, and is claimable SQ by everyone for this campaign. So in all, that should be 5 SQ and 3 tickets. Of course, another 4 SQ can be gained from the Sigurd and Valkyrie pass interludes that will be unlocked if you have not yet completed them, regardless if you own those servants or not. Additionally, Sigurd receives a rank up quest, so that's another 2 SQ for those masters that have him. And if you have the Brynhildr trial quest available in the Rare Prism Exchange and have cleared LB2, then you will gain free access to it and can claim 1 ticket by clearing it. Combined, that's 6 quartz and 1 ticket that are more so conditional. This year, Easter falls on March 31st, and while there hasn't always been an Easter campaign every year for NA Global, last year it was absent, I'm going to assume one for this year, which should be good for another 10 SQ login bonus. Taking a look at such things like the daily logins and weekly missions, saving from Jan 1st to March 31st, we get a combined 121 quartz and 28 tickets. Tallying up our savings from January and March, we get a combined 323 Saint Quartz and 71 tickets. Alternatively, if we add in the potential SQ and tickets from what I've deemed conditionals, Then the total becomes 371 quartz and 103 tickets. Every year on April 1st, we get to have a little fun with an April Fool's campaign, though the actual minigame content tends to differ on NA compared to JP, so we may not get this Fate Pixel Wars indicated here, but we can expect to get a 10 SQ login bonus regardless. A few days or so into April, we get the new Sea Monster Crisis event, and along with it, 2024's third brand new SSR servant, a pair of siblings teamed up to form a single target art saber. Wait, what? No, not that sibling pair. Here we go. Hailing from Vietnamese lore, the limited and stylish Trung sisters. Making a brief subtotal count for those planning to day 1 roll for these saber siblings, saving from January 1st to an assumed event start date of April 6th, you should have a relatively conservative 340 Saint Quartz and 76 summon tickets at your disposal. A non-conservative figure that includes all of those conditional SQ and tickets would amount to 390 quartz and 108 tickets. Though, if you're staying strong and continuing to keep your eye on that summer prize, then your next chance to roll for the Trung sisters will be July of 2025. And just as a side note for you Morgan fans out there, the second banner of this event will have her on rate up. But not to worry, Morgan will be on another banner come November later this year. As for what can be gained from the Sea Monster Crisis event, playing through the event will net you 22 quartz. If you happen to have 4-star assassin Wu Zetian, she gets a new rank up with this event, so that's a potential 2 more quartz that can be obtained for certain masters. Referring back to the Spring New Master Aid campaign that would be ongoing during April, on JP there was a social media component to the campaign that started around mid-April. The SQ and ticket rewards are fairly nice, so I imagine Lasengo will either do something similar with FGO NA socials, or find another way to distribute it, or perhaps a combination of both. Either way, I think it's reasonable to assume another 12 quartz and 5 tickets added to our savings. In the second half of April, we will probably get the pre-release campaign for the Learn with Manga collaboration event. This pre-release will have a cumulative login bonus where we can gain 3 SQ. An associated social media campaign was held for the pre-release with a gift of 12 quartz upon reaching the target goals. Either we will get a similar SNS campaign as well, or those 12 quartz are provided with a special login for the actual Learn with Manga event. There will also be new rank up quests for 5 servants. So if you have either Altera, Summer Tamamo, the regular and summer versions of Anne and Mary, or Summer Helena, then that's potentially a couple of quartz per rank up, 10 in total if you have all of them. After a week or so, the proper event for the FGO Learn with Manga collaboration will follow. A few new limited servants will be introduced with this event. Specific to the SQ gacha, we have the alter ego Super Bunyan, a 5-star unit, quite the upgrade from her humble 1-star self. And then there is also a 4-star unit, a caster and second one in the game to have a quick base NP for that class, some Mice of Good Fortune, Daikokuten. Since these are brand new servants, we'll do a quick subtotal savings for those that have been targeting either Super Bunyan, Daikokuten, or both. Basing a count from January 1st to an assumed event start date of April 27th, one can have 450 quartz and 87 tickets. If we include those conditional SQ and tickets, then it will be a more optimistic 500 SQ and 116 tickets. For those that are still holding out for the summer event, then both Super Bunyan and Daikokuten will be in rate up again in July of 2025. And as for what we can add to our savings from the Learn with Manga event, we're looking at 20 SQ and 3 tickets. Do note that several SQ from the event quests will likely not be accessible until May, given the event's duration. But for simplicity, I'm counting the whole towards April. In terms of daily logins, weekly missions, etc., saving from January 1st to April 30th, it comes to 180 quartz and 37 tickets. Then adding up everything from the beginning of the year to the end of April, our savings should be 471 Saint Quartz and 88 summon tickets, while a total optimistic count would end up being 521 quartz and 120 tickets. Right at the beginning of May, we're likely to hit our 2500 days anniversary and gain 10 SQ from the associated login bonus. Then sometime in the early parts of May would be NA Global's counterpart to the 25 million downloads campaign that occurred on JP. I say counterpart because the last couple of these campaigns for NA have not actually been referencing a downloads milestone, interestingly enough. At any rate, as per usual with a campaign of this type, we can obtain 10 summon tickets from a consecutive login bonus, plus another 12 quartz from several limited missions. And there should be a related social media campaign with a reward of 30 SQ if the campaign goals are met. With this campaign, Percival gets his first interlude, which will reward 2 SQ upon completion. Though I'm uncertain if this new interlude will be available even if you don't have Percival in your roster, like we have seen with previous campaigns. So I will deem this conditional SQ. Though if you want to add Percival to your Chaldea, there will be an opportunity with the free SR exchange ticket that comes with this campaign. He will be one of the 68 available choices of SRs. Now, I'm not advocating for Percival specifically, just that it was a nice segue to this SR ticket feature. Though I would like to point out the newly released Feistion will also be among the choices available, just in case you had to hold off on rolling for her due to lack of SQ or something. And lastly, I should probably talk a little bit about the summoning banners available with this counterpart download campaign. Namely, the one featuring one of the best all-around supports / top art support unit, Castoria. For this video, I was mainly focusing on brand new servants for subtotal counts, but Castoria is special as she is just that good. Superb, really, and any roster will significantly benefit from having her. So if you don't have her yet, here is what your savings will look like when she comes around in May. For an assumed banner start date of May 11th, you should have 532 Saint Quartz and 94 tickets. On the optimistic side of things, the figure would change to 584 quartz and 107 tickets. If the summer servants are still your main focus, fortunately there will be another chance to roll for Castoria later this year during the Lost Belt 7 pre-release support campaign expected in late November. Now, as alluded to earlier, the Learn with Manga collab event will stretch to about mid-May, and expected to immediately follow is the TROM, or Lost Belt 6.5 pre-release campaign. The first part of the pre-release will have story-relevant servant interludes unlocked and accessible, even if you don't own the servants or you do own them, but not yet at the required ascension and bond level. So, assuming you haven't yet cleared any of these interludes prior to this, a potential 16 SQ can be gained. Additionally, there will be a trial quest to clear and it will reward 1 summon ticket. And that trial quest is to introduce a brand new limited SSR, the tanky and buster / Roman support oriented rider, Constantine the 11th. Now, if this suave looking Byzantine Emperor is someone you have been targeting, then going from January 1st to a scenario banner date of May 18th, at your disposal would be 539 Saint Quartz and 106 summon tickets to roll for Constantine. Though that savings figure would increase to a more optimistic 603 quartz and 138 tickets if we include all of the available conditional sources up to this point. Of course, there will be another chance to roll for Constantine if you feel more compelled to keep saving. He will be on rate up again in July of 2025. Moving on, there is a second part to this TROM pre-release, staggered by a few days, which is why I didn't include this with the Constantine SQ count. At any rate, it will have a cumulative login bonus that gives 7 quartz, plus a limited mission that offers another 10 SQ by clearing the Tunguska Prologue and Epilogue. And speaking of Tunguska, with this TROM pre-release Part 2 campaign, the Tunguska Sanctuary quests will be available to access in the Rare Prism Exchange shop, at no cost once the related Prologue quest is cleared. So if you happen to miss out on the event or just started FGO in the new year, you can still check out the story featuring our dear Tamamo Vichkoinskaya. And clearing those Tunguska quests should net you 16 SQ in the end as well. However, from what I can gather, it seems that for masters that have already played through the Tunguska event, this will not be a second chance to play through the quests again and subsequently gain another 16 SQ. There just doesn't seem to be any indication this is like the previous main interludes like Merry Christmas from the Underworld and Seraph, both of which had dedicated main interlude release campaigns and were available to players that had already completed their related events. With that said, I'm just going to consider these potential 16 SQ as conditional. Now for the actual release of the LB 6.5 Trom main story chapter, I'm going to go out on a limb and predict this will happen in late May, perhaps the last week of the month. On JP, this happened at the very beginning of June, but with all of the events that need to take place in June in order to accommodate NA's 7th anniversary at the beginning of July, I feel the Trom release will be moved to late May. This at least keeps the overall schedule pattern intact. As for the goodies we can expect on day 1 of this chapter release campaign, we can gain 16 quartz, 12 from a related Chaldea broadcast, stream/social media campaign, and of course 4 from a server maintenance likely to happen. There are more conditional SQ available as well. A combined 4 quartz from 2 new rank up quests specific to Sherlock and Siegfried, if you happen to have both in your Chaldea. And then from the Rare Prism Exchange, if you have the Sherlock Holmes trial quest listed there, access will be free once you have met the story requirements. If you have this particular RP shop quest, then clearing it will provide 1 summon ticket. Naturally, with a new story chapter comes new servants, and there are 6 in total being introduced. First up will be the legendary king from French lore, Charlemagne, who comes to us as a limited AoE quick SSR Saber class servant. I wonder if he can keep Astolfo reined in a bit. Accompanying Charlemagne on the banner are 2 SRs. The story-locked Gothic Beauty of a Berserker and Siegfried's Bow, Kriemhild. And this permanent saber who apparently likes to run around naked, Roland of the 12 Paladins. Banner 2 of Trom will feature another limited SSR, this time an AoE arts ruler, the criminal mastermind James Moriarty, who looks to be a younger version of himself, devoid of any back pain. Tagging along with Ruler Moriarty is the diminutive in stature but grand in his heroics, the story-locked SR Lancer Don Quixote. Plus, we have a new permanent 3-star servant, a figure from China's Three Kingdoms era and classed as a caster, Zhang Zhu. So, to keep things a bit easier for me, I'm just going to do 1 substantial count for these servants, even though Ruler Moriarty's banner will be staggered by a week. Assuming a save date range of January 1st to May 25th for this Trom chapter release, one can have 579 Saint Quartz and 107 summon tickets if any of these new servants were your targets. And the more optimistic figure, including all of the conditional quests and whatnot, would be 659 quartz and 140 tickets. Playing through Lost Belt 6.5 Trom and clearing all of the quests would net 31 quartz from what I was able to tabulate, 21 quartz from the first clear quest rewards, and another 10 or so from the gathered fragments obtained from each individual part of the story sections. Finally, looking at the daily logins and weekly missions up to the end of May, we are now up to 239 quartz and 46 tickets. Then to close out May, the total savings since January based on how I've laid things out should be 577 quartz and 108 tickets. And the non-conservative numbers would change to 730 quartz and 141 tickets. Which brings us to June. With my little shuffle of the Trom chapter release to happen in late May, I think the very beginning of the month will begin with the Grail Front event, Moonsault Operation. And playing through this Grail Front should provide 9 SQ and 7 tickets. Additionally, there are some new rank up quests added for a number of our Sakura Face servants. So if you have these Seraph related waifus, then you can obtain up to 10 more SQ upon completing their rank ups. Perhaps mid-June or so, the next part of the Road to 7 project will be held, with the campaign specific to Lost Belt 3. Like the previous ones, it will have recollection quests pertaining to LB3, and clearing certain ones will provide up to 3 summon tickets. LB3 related servants will also have their existing interludes unlocked, even if you don't have them in your roster. This means a potential 14 SQ in total can be obtained if you're in a position of not having done any of these interludes yet. The next event, called Nanmei Yumehari Hakenden, is a significant reason that led to my prediction of a schedule shuffle for the Trom story chapter to release in late May, and then the Moonsault Operation Grill Front to occur early June. Originally on JP, Hakenden ran in late June and spilled over into July, having a duration of 3 weeks. This would obviously interfere with NA's anniversary at the beginning of July, plus it introduces a new SSR that is supposed to be on the anniversary GSSR summons. So with that said, I think it will fall immediately after the Grill Front and may even overlap with it to ensure Nanmei Yumahari Hakenden finishes by the end of June. Now, we should get a social media campaign, perhaps with a Chaldea broadcast stream to promote this event, and that should mean a gift of 14 SQ on day 1 of the event, plus the 4 maintenance SQ. Additionally, there are some new rank ups with this event, one for Hession Lobo and one for Okada Izo, for a combined potential of 4 SQ, if you have those servants, that is. Katsushika Hokusai's trial quest from the Rare Prism Exchange will be made free once Salem has been cleared. So that's one more ticket that can be potentially obtained if that trial quest is still available to you. All of that can be gained at the start of the event, which can then be aggregated into one savings and possibly used to roll for the 2 new servants that make their appearance here. First up is the limited SSR AoE Arts Rider, a renowned author during the Edo period, Kyokute Bakin. The second new servant is one who makes for quite an imposing sight, but nonetheless visually striking, the permanent SSR AoE Buster Archer, Minamoto no Tametomo. So for those that may be targeting these banners, based on saving from January to an assumed event start date of June 9th, SQ and tickets on hand should be 687 and 125 respectively. Including all of the conditional quests and such, that would increase the figures to 797 Saint Quartz and 159 summon tickets. But if you're on the side of staying strong for summer, then playing through and completing the Hakenden event will provide another 14 quartz and 4 tickets to put towards the summer event savings. For the final week of June or so, I'm going to assume that the 7th anniversary countdown campaign will be held, leading up to NA's anniversary campaign, which typically coincides with the Anime Expo weekend. Now, the key component to this campaign pertaining to our savings is the consecutive login bonus, which provides a total of 2 summon tickets. And on a personal note, I'm actually quite looking forward to the banner for this countdown campaign, featuring a number of previous summer servants. I'm looking at you, Squirtoria. As for the end of June figures for daily logins and weekly missions, saving from Jan to this point would be 272 quartz and 56 tickets. Then for combined total savings based on January to June, we're looking at 722 Saint Quartz and 134 summon tickets. This would change to 832 quartz and 168 tickets if we were to optimistically include all of those conditional quests, interludes, and rank ups. And now we're looking at July, which means the 7th anniversary celebration and the tons of goodies that tend to come with arguably the biggest campaign of the year. But first, a bit of background context on NA's anniversary campaigns. Historically, it has been scheduled to coincide with Anime Expo, usually releasing after the Sunday of the Anime Expo weekend schedule during an official panel of FGO USA. This year, Anime Expo 2024 is scheduled from July 4th to the 7th, with the 7th being a Sunday. So I'm going to assume Losangle takes advantage of an opportunity here, that they will hold the FGO panel / livestream to promote the 7th anniversary on Saturday, July 6th, with the official anniversary campaign starting on July 7th, 0000 hours, after some server maintenance, giving us the perfect 7th anniversary celebration to start on the 7th day of the 7th month. Though this would be a bit later than previous years, especially considering FGONA's actual anniversary date is June 26th. But hey, we do have precedent surrounding the Anime Expo schedule, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. At any rate, that's my prediction for now. Please take it with a grain of salt. With that all said, we can look forward to lots of SQ from day 1 of the 7th anniversary campaign. Our JP brethren received a 100 quartz gift for the anniversary special broadcast and social media campaign. We are likely to receive the same, though it may come in waves through a couple of smaller campaigns like how we got an app release login bonus last year. In the end, I'm confident the total amount of SQ we receive will be 100 quartz, even if it's not all at once. For limited missions, there is one in particular that rewards 1 ticket. New extra missions will be added to the game through this anniversary campaign, though I will only count the 3 missions involving Lost Belt 6 and the 2 missions about clearing free quests for a total of 50 SQ. I would love to include the other extra missions, but clearing over 210 rank ups and over 250 interludes is reserved for a very select few masters out there. These new rank ups and interlude extra missions will even be excluded from my optimistic numbers. The conditions for them are just that extreme. The Mana Prism Exchange will have 10 summon tickets available from the 7th anniversary limited time stock of items. And then there is an incredible update that will be added to the game that is sure to provide many masters with a relatively significant haul of quartz. For every servant, a reward will be given at each stage of ascension, with the 4th and final ascension providing 3 SQ. This applies to permanent, limited, and story-locked units. The exception to this 3 SQ reward are event welfare servants and SRs from the Friend Point Gacha. So, depending on how many servants you have leveled up to their 4th ascension, this could mean dozens upon dozens of quartz retroactively placed in your present box. Of course, this is very conditional based on one's roster, but I do want to factor in a relatively conservative and achievable scenario. Let's say 1 SR servant from the tutorial summon, 1 SSR from the free special summon feature, 18 permanent 1 and 2 star servants from the Friend Point Gacha, and then 13 3-star servants, most of whom are summonable from the Friend Point Gacha, if not the regular SQ banners, and 3 of which are story locked that were rewards from clearing certain story chapters. With all of these at their 4th ascension stage, that would mean 99 quartz gained from this new update. For the savings count, I will use this 99 SQ scenario as a placeholder. Remember, this is just for the purposes of this video and your actual results will vary. So feel free to replace this in your own personal savings counts with how many eligible servants you have at their 4th ascension multiplied by 3 SQ. Among the components of this 7th anniversary campaign are the new servant rank ups that are released over 7 days. On day 1, there is a rank up available for 1 permanent free 3-star servant, Jekyll and Hyde, good for 2 SQ. Then finally we get 1 summon ticket from completing the new Anniversary Servant's Trial quest. And that new servant is none other than the archetype Earth, otherwise known as Arcuid Brunstad, the main heroine from sister type moon franchise Tsukihime. So I suspect many masters that are Tsukihime fans, or at least just general type moon fans, will have archetype Earth as a priority summoning target. And thus I feel she brings us to the beginning of the famed Summer Gauntlet of Banners. As a unit, Archetype Earth brings some interesting things to the table, like a 100% NP charge ability, a couple of conditional party-wide NP charges, and a battlefield type change effect that she greatly benefits from. So if we were to look at our savings for this new limited SSR Buster Moon Cancer, including Day 1 7th Anniversary goodies, there should be 986 Saint Quartz and 152 summon tickets. And then if we factor in all of those conditional quests and such for a more optimistic figure, the Day 1 savings would be 1094 quartz and 186 tickets. If Archetype Earth is not quite on your primary target list, but still interested in eventually adding her to your Chaldea, unfortunately outside of GSSRs, she does not have any known future banners for the time being. This will likely change at some point, I'm sure. Now, there are still 2 more things to include from the 7th anniversary campaign that I haven't discussed yet, since they wouldn't be available on day 1. There are the 10 tickets we get from the 7-day consecutive login bonus, and once all of the new rank up quests are released from days 2 to 7, 10 quartz can be gained from the specific rank up quests to the freely available servants that are 3-star or lower. After a week or so from the release of the 7th anniversary, I suspect the main interlude Oku release campaign will happen. This will be a brand new main interlude, so it will be available to all masters. Access it from the Rare Prism Exchange shop for free when certain story requirements are met, being that LB3 has been cleared and either the past Seraph event or the Seraph main interlude has been cleared as well. From this Oku main interlude, we can gain up to 40 SQ, 34 quartz from the Oku quests, 4 SQ from a probable server maintenance, plus 2 quartz from the new interlude quest for the SSR caster Scheherazade, which will be unlocked regardless of whether you have her or not. A potential 1 summon ticket can be gained if you have yet to clear the Parvati trial quest from the Rare Prism Exchange. It will now be freely accessible once LB3 has been cleared. Counting up the numbers for daily logins and weekly missions, January to the end of July there should be 331 quartz and 65 tickets. Then adding that with the events and campaigns, including those from July, we're looking at a combined 1,086 Saint Quartz and 165 summon tickets. Alternatively, the optimistic scenario would be 1,196 quartz and 200 tickets. Diving into August, the first thing that will likely come up is the Arctic Summer World event. Our final stop for this particular SQ savings video, and perhaps the main component to the rationale behind why this summer overall is probably so highly anticipated. But before we get to that, let's take a look at what additional SQ is available from the event, either from a Chaldea broadcast stream / social media campaign, or through a special login bonus. We should look forward to 14 quartz, 4 SQ from the projected server maintenance. Completing the event story and extra quests will yield 14 SQ. And finally, 3 tickets can be obtained from accumulating nearly the max amount of event points. Now, let's look at the new Summer Servants. There are 6 in total, split up between 3 different banners over the course of the event. Banner 1 features a limited SSR Pretender class support servant who bears a striking resemblance to Merlin. Coincidence? Well, she'll be introduced to us as Lady Avalon, and basically, she can pretty much do what Merlin can do, with some slight changes like Lady Avalon buffing arts rather than Buster, among other things. And I'd say she has a couple of advantages over Merlin as well, depending on the situation. Which is why I suggested holding off on rolling for Merlin from an earlier month. On my JP account, I wanted to add Merlin to my roster, but failed. Yet I was fortunate enough to get Lady Avalon later on, and haven't looked back ever since. Her next banners will be April 2025 and August 2025 for those that choose to skip out on rolling for her this time around. Lady Avalon's banner partner is the limited SR Saber Gareth. Looking all geared up to enjoy beach and hit the waves, this summer version of Gareth is an AoE buster unit with the notable capability to change the field type to a sunlight battlefield for multiple turns, benefiting herself and her big brother Gawain. She can be summoned again in August 2025 if you miss out on her this time. On Banner 2, we have Summer Ibuki Doji, a limited SSR AoE arts berserker and is arguably the best universal arts looper in the game. Generally speaking, this version of Ibuki has similar base characteristics to her kit that make Space Ishtar and Summer Kama renowned arts loopers, notably a 50% NP battery. But while her Avenger rivals tend to do neutral damage most of the time, Summer Ibuki holds the benefit of a Berserker's semi-effectiveness against most classes. There is of course more to her kit, but the short of it is, if you don't have a go-to universal AoE arts looper, then Summer Ibuki is a superb unit to fill that role. Summer Ibuki's next banner will be August 2025 if you decide to not roll for her this time. Joining Summer Ibuki on this banner is the limited SR single target arts Avenger, Utsumi Eris, and oh boy, is this windsurfing version of Eris much better than her Lancer self when it comes to looping. Summer Eris does still have her instant kill gimmick on her NP, but fortunately this time its effects are applied after the NP damage, allowing for proper NP refund. She also does bonus damage against targets that are cursed and against servants to a slightly lesser degree. All in all, as far as Arts ST units go, Avenger Eris seems to be quite nice. and you will be able to roll for her again in August 2025. The final banner we'll be looking at has Summer Skaha Scotty, and personally speaking, I'm kind of looking forward to her the most out of the Summer Servants. This version of Scotty is a limited SSR quick ruler with offensive and support capabilities. This game's quick meta has been eagerly awaiting for a new major support unit, and well, it just so happens to be Scotty again, though this time in a swimsuit. Notably, she has a targetable 50% NP charge and targetable quick buff like her caster self, but branches out with some buster crit support as well. And her MP is an AoE quick type, so she can very much act as a main attacker if you so choose. Some may argue that Summer Scotty isn't quite the revolutionary quick meta support that was hoped for. Regardless of the overall quick meta, I'm quite excited to add her to my Chaldea. She will be on Raid Up again next year come August. Then, Summer Scotty's partnered SR featured on this final banner is a much more mature looking version of Wu Zetian, but this time as a limited caster class servant. Summer Wu has an AoE buster NP this time out and is equipped with a bonus damage against man attribute enemies. Additionally, she has a few anti-undead modifiers, and notably her NP causes the targets to gain an undead trait for multiple turns. I always thought her assassin self to be quite entertaining, so I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of hijinks her seemingly older caster self gets into. And if you're wondering when her next banner is, well, you guessed it, it's next year in August. Moving on to how much savings will be on hand to roll for these summer waifus, I'll base it on the assumed start date of the third banner, August 17th. And by then, the SQ from the event quests plus one ticket should have been gathered, so it works out nicely. Now, if you were super disciplined with your savings from January 1st to August 17th, there should be a combined 1,134 Saint Quartz and 173 summon tickets. On the optimistic end of the spectrum, when including all of the conditional RP shop quests, plus every single interlude and rank up discussed, we get a total of 1,244 quartz and 208 tickets. And there you have it. All things considered, I would say the savings figures for both the 7th anniversary and the Arctic Summer World event are quite healthy amounts. Personally, I would be hopeful to get at least 2 SSRs, though anything can happen with the gacha, both on the negative and positive side of the spectrum. As some final thoughts on the matter of saving SQ, one thing to consider is to work on ascending as many servants as you're willing and able to, in order to maximize the SQ return from the 7th anniversary Ascension Reward update. I realize it may be easier said than done, what with all the QP, EXP embers, and materials needed for such an endeavor. Though, if the focus is kept to the 1 to 2 star servants, maybe even the 3 star servants, the overall cost of sending them is quite a bit lighter compared to with gold servants. And remember that a Lotto event will be coming in March to help stock up on QP embers and even a select number of materials. I realize it may be easier said than done, what with all the QP, EXP embers, and materials needed for such an endeavor. Though, if the focus is kept to the 1 to 2 star servants, maybe even the 3 star servants, the overall cost of sending them is quite a bit lighter compared to with gold servants. And remember that a Lotto event will be coming in March to help stock up on QP embers and even a select number of materials. Well, that brings us to a close on this edition of Saving Up SQ. Hope you were able to make it through that whole thing. Always tons of information to cover when looking several months ahead. Once again, I just want to put out a friendly reminder that there were some liberties taken when compiling the information. How Lasengo ends up scheduling the events and campaigns throughout the year remains to be seen, and deviation from what I've indicated is always possible. And that would impact which SQ and tickets can be gained at certain points in time. Ultimately, your savings results may vary. The intent of these SQ savings videos is to at least illustrate what is possible and provide an idea of how much you may have to work with. Now, I will cover the second half of the year as well, though it may not be for some time depending on the feedback I get. And I wanted to cover some other planning topics before tackling what would essentially be SQ 2024 Part 2. If you found any of this helpful and enjoyable in some way, I would be immensely grateful if you could please hit that like button to show some love. And please leave a comment as to who your main servant targets are this year. Are they the anniversary and summer servants, or perhaps others? At any rate, I thank you so much for watching, and until the next one, cheers all!